Hello and welcome back to the You Are the Program podcast. We are wrapping up our preview series, or not wrapping up today, but wrapping up in the next episode. We are on today, Iowa. That was probably the most confusing intro of all time. Moving to Maryland next week. Before we get into anything, I want to remind everyone to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on Apple, on Spotify. And then additionally now on YouTube. We've appreciated some of the activity that we've seen over the past couple days on YouTube come in. A lot of it from our friends down the street in Ann Arbor, which with what I thought was probably a pretty general, there's bias in there with some of the stuff we're saying, but I thought we were fairly positive on their outlook this year.
Yeah, I mean, there are in-state rivals. We don't like each other. We're not going to, kiss them up, but I don't
glaze
know.
them, if you will.
Yeah, glaze them. apparently, I said poo-poo in the pod, and everyone just took that and ran with it too.
Honestly, I was trying to figure out if those were like bots or something, just because of how much people were saying poo-poo in there. Like I couldn't believe that's what there was. Like 5 comments in the comment section that had poo-poo in there, and I don't remember anyone saying that. So
I don't remember saying it.
Anyways. Be sure to follow us on YouTube, subscribe to us on YouTube, get your notifications on for when we post on YouTube. And I believe I talked about this at the end of what was our last podcast? Penn State? Yeah, the end of the Penn State podcast, that we will be doing a live stream podcast for the Western Michigan preview show. We would like to try and make pregame, postgame, at least one of them live streamable. Depending on our schedules, but we would love it and we'll send some more information out as the week progresses here, as we get into next week. And it is game week next week. As we get going on that, we'll send out some more information, and we'd love for everyone to enter the chat, have some questions, kind of do some Q&A with what you guys are wondering, Western Michigan season, anything. So without any further ado, let's get into the Iowa Hawkeyes. It feels like this type of preview can be wash, rinse, repeat, year after year after year after year. But let's talk a little bit about them this week. First of all, fellas, let's go around the room here before we get into anything Iowa related. How we doing? We'll see you guys tomorrow. Well, 48 hours, less than 48 hours, a little more than 24.
Yes, by the time this podcast is out, Dante will be a married man, so we can all give him a little congratulations right now if we want.
Add a sound effect in. Come on now.
Yeah, well, that's too complicated. We're not there with StreamYard yet. We're working on it, but we're doing good. Excited to talk a little Iowa Hawkeyes, the mainstay. Kirk Ferentz, the mainstay of the Big Ten. Talk a little Iowa ball.
Yeah, listen, I mean, fired up. You said it's game week next week, but it's wedding week this week. We got to take it one day at a time. We're getting a little golf in, some drinks with the boys, getting the band back together a little bit. So,
I've already been getting antsy, Higby, about just like hopping out of the cart, hitting the shot. It's got some country music blaring. Get back in the car and driving up.
Fire me up, baby! Come on,
good. It's feeling good.
We are playing together. I set the group, so we are playing together. It'll be good. I'm excited for Higby to get his redemption, because last time we played out there, I think he shot 92. So,
hey, damn.
We're all working in the same direction. Hey, we're all working in the same direction right now.
Don't worry about it. I got something.
Anyways, the Iowa Hawkeyes, Brian, if you could pull up their preseason odds here for the season. Let's focus on the over-under first, and I don't really want to touch too much on the win Big Ten at plus 330, but they are set at a win total of 7.5 on the year. There's some interesting developments with their offense in terms of the quarterback that they brought in and the caliber of quarterback that he is. He's stepping up a level, going from FCS with South Dakota State to Iowa, but PFF likes him. There's been some good buzz around Iowa, but it feels like anything that modernizes their offense post what it was 2-3 years ago is a step in the right direction. So their schedule is home against Albany, at Iowa State, home against UMass, at Rutgers, versus Indiana, at Wisconsin, Penn State at home, Minnesota at home, Oregon at home. So 3 in a row there. At USC, home against Michigan State, at Nebraska. What do you guys like about this over-under line? Do you like the over-under? Where are you falling? Because as I kind of look at that and read off the schedule, this feels like one of the more favorable schedules that we've probably seen in our preview series here.
Yeah, they do get some of the big games at home. Obviously, Penn State and Oregon at home. They have to travel to the West Coast and play USC, which is a little tough. I think they're at Nebraska, so that's always a tough game to play there. And then at their in-state rival, Iowa State. I think the line is pretty well set. I would say they're a good 7-5 team. I mean, if history is an indicator of anything, that's kind of what they've been, is like a 7-win team. Make a bowl. Maybe once every 5 years they flirt with a Big Ten championship. Maybe with the realignment, it may not happen as much, but I wouldn't be shocked if they went 8-9 wins. They're probably going to scare one of Penn State or Oregon.
Agreed.
Maybe win one of those, sneak a win out of that. But yeah, I think it's a safer bet is right at 7 wins.
Yeah, I'm curious, how many guaranteed wins are you giving them? But just looking at their schedule right now, because right now I'm only giving them, like, I lean under with this, and kind of by a wide margin. Like right now, I'm only based off what I see on their schedule, I'm only giving them 3-4 guaranteed wins. I mean, the first 2 are not 2, Albany and UMass. Those are wins. I'll give them Rutgers, even though it's at Rutgers. And I've talked a lot these last couple weeks about Indiana, what I expect for them this year and how they're going to take a step back. I'm not giving them an automatic dub there. And even Minnesota, I don't give them an automatic dub there. As much as I hate PJ Fleck, we talked last week about what kind of games they're going to – it's never going to be easy against them. So that's 3 automatic dubs right there. Other than that, I think every game's kind of 50-50 in my eyes.
I feel like the thing with Iowa is the fact that, and this schedule more than any other, is I feel like almost any game except maybe like an Ohio State on the road or even Penn State or Oregon on the road, any game is winnable for them. And also on the flip side, they can lose any game depending on what we get out of an Iowa. But I think they're a pretty interesting team this year, and I kind of like their over, and I think they could be a sneaky 10-win team this year. I mean, you talk about you get Indiana, Penn State, Oregon all at home, which I don't expect them to sweep those. But at the same time, Kinnick is a very hard place to play. And Brian, as you had said, I wouldn't be stunned, like looking at their schedule right now, if they get one of those 2. And then outside of that, it's semi-manageable. But this seems like probably one of the schedules and previews in terms of the over-under that's got the most variance, because I could see them winning 4 games this year, and I could see them winning as many as 10 if things fall right for them and if their offense does take another step, because we know what their defense kind of brings every single year.
I think a lot of it comes down to how good the rest of the Big Ten is. Like, I think we know what Iowa's going to be. That's what they are every year.
Yeah.
They're going to have a solid defense. They're not typically going to beat themselves, although their offense hasn't been great in the past, but it's taking steps in the right direction. I think it really comes down to how Indiana is going to be, how Minnesota is going to be, even Wisconsin. So I think it comes down to more of what the rest of the Big Ten is than what Iowa is.
I feel like that's also one of the things that, as we've gone through the preview series, there's so many teams in the middle of this Big Ten that I think you could forecast one way or the other. I mean, Michigan State's one of them, but then, as we go through a Minnesota podcast, as we go through an Indiana podcast, even USC and Nebraska, like, we can try to forecast these things. And obviously in a preview series, it's never going to be perfect, but the Big Ten, I feel like this year, more than a lot of other years before, at least looking at it, there's so many teams, I feel like, in that middle tier of the variance could be all over the place. And that's kind of, I think it speaks to where college football is at with the talent getting more spread out. But Iowa's one of those teams, at least when we're talking about in Iowa, like, you kind of know, like I said at the beginning, what they are going to be or what they're going to be modeled as. I think that's a great point, Tyler, is how good is the rest of the Big Ten going to be? Because their floor is a lot higher than other teams' floors.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think there's only really one team in the Big Ten that no one's really expecting much from, and that's Purdue. not to crap on them or anything, but
Poo-poo. Poo-poo,
yeah,
Purdue.
I guess
Boiler fans, get in here.
I don't think anyone's expecting anything from Purdue much this year, but I feel like any other team could make a little bit of a run, win 8-9 games, and some teams get unlucky with scheduling and playing the team that gets hot and only win 4.
You heard it here first. Brian could see the Northwestern Wildcats going 9-3 this year.
Forgot about them
from Brian. So
I don't like Northwestern either.
Well, I'll tell you what, Purdue's schedule is not doing many favors either.
No, they have a brutal one. And Wisconsin could be a sneaky one too. We'll talk about this in the greater Big Ten preview pod, but you could see a new coach in Wisconsin in a year. They have look up Wisconsin's schedule while we quickly try and transition here. They have a brutal schedule. There might not be 4 or 5 wins on that schedule.
Is that right?
Anyways, while you guys are looking that up, let me try and fill some time here. The biggest thing with the Iowa Hawkeye. Wait, hang on. I see some smiles and laughs. Talk to me about Wisconsin's schedule.
I mean, at Alabama week 3, at Michigan, home against Ohio State, at Oregon, at Indiana, home against Illinois. I mean,
Washington, who's going to be a sleeper in the Big Ten, in my opinion.
I mean, you're talking 2 guaranteed wins off the bat, and then after that,
their entire Big Ten schedule is filled with contenders.
Yeah,
like Big Ten contenders.
We talked about Indiana's strength of schedule like last year in the Big Ten with who they played, and they only played one team above, I think, 500 in the Big Ten last year. Looking at Wisconsin's schedule is a complete flip side of that, at least forecasting out at the beginning of the year. So, little aside there, but let's get back to Iowa and let's get back to the program that they have. And kind of, I think we want to preface this discussion or focus this discussion around the floor that Iowa has established and kind of where they always end up. But I think this year they have a chance to go up because of their offense last year, believe it or not, averaged, I think, 27, almost 28 points a game. Now, some of those were filled with some soft games in the middle, and they're trending in the right direction. They're still not a modern offense by any stretch. I don't think their passing game last year was really bad. I think Caleb Johnson, the running back that now on the Steelers, helped them a lot on that side of the ball. But we know their offensive line is going to be really good. PFF has them ranked as the preseason number 6 offensive line in the country. So that's a really good unit, and you know what their bread and butter is going to be on offense. But they bring in Mark Gronowski, a quarterback from South Dakota State. I keep wanting to say San Diego State now that one of us has said it in the pre-show, Brian. But Mark Gronowski, who started for 4 years, put up great numbers at South Dakota State. Hang on one second. Over 10,000 passing yards, 93 touchdowns, 20 interceptions at South Dakota State. So he started for 4 years. I think one of those years he came in halfway through the year. It makes them interesting on that side of the ball. And I think they bring back some receivers last year, and Reese Vanderzee and Jacob Gill. Not huge yardage, obviously, as their offense and their passing attack last year wasn't anything to be noted. But I think this is a really interesting spot for Iowa. And this is kind of why I forecast them maybe towards, I think they could surprise some people with, we know what their defense typically is. We know they're going to return a good offensive line. I think they're going to be very interesting. And obviously, as always, it's going to depend on the offense.
Yeah, I think it does. The offense has kind of been the thing holding them back in the past few years. But when you think of Iowa, you think of Kirk Ferentz, who's the longest tenured head coach in FBS. He's made a bowl game in 22 of his 26 seasons at Iowa. They finished top 5 in the AP poll 5 times. So he's a model of consistency. He's always able to figure out what needs to be done at that program and get them on the right track. So as Tyler's fumbling the bag here with this, with these,
that wasn't me. That was not me. My hands aren't even touching the computer right now.
YouTube viewers got a good look of Higbee right there. So, anyways, the Iowa offense, we talked about it, and Brian, you had just brought up Gronowski. That offense, you know where their defense is always going to be, but they've struggled to get up to a level that's kind of modernized. So Gronowski, Tyler, talk a little bit about their offensive line, because I feel like that's always a staple of theirs. Obviously, as I said, PFF number 6 offensive line coming into the year. I think they're going to be good on that side of the ball, and their running back and running attack typically is always pretty consistent with that zone scheme up there.
Yeah, you talked about the zone scheme. I remember when we played them back in 2017. Was it 2017 at home?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. It's just, it hasn't changed over the years so much so that like when they check a call at the line, you knew exactly what play was coming, where it was going, and like as a defender, you knew exactly where it was going, and it was going to be stretched to the right or left. And 7 years later, they do the same type of stuff. So Iowa is what they are. They're not going to change up front. They're going to be good. You talked about number 6 O-line in the country. So Joe Moore Award watch list. But when you think of Iowa, you think of O-line, you think of linebackers. I mean, I remember Josie Jewell was a standout. So you just think of solid, kind of like quarterbacks, but not really the quarterbacks. Like quarterback on the field, defensively, and then offensive line up front. It's just going to be, they're going to be steady, stout. They're going to make the offense go.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk a little bit about the defensive side then, because to your point, and you guys can speak to this a little bit more, having the offensive experience against an Iowa team. This is one of the rare previews that, in a 2025 age where we talk about we don't really know what we're going to get from a team year over year because of the roster attrition, because of the transfer portal, right? But at Iowa, I mean, transfer portal, yes, obviously we talk about their quarterback, Mark Gronowski, coming in. But in terms of what they do, like every team goes into that week knowing exactly what Iowa does and what they want to do offensively, defensively, from a strategic standpoint, how their head coach is going to typically call a game in terms of clock management. He's going to be super conservative, but defensively, especially, Phil Parker has been at Iowa for I don't even know how long, probably over 20 years. And you guys know what we probably did back in the day in terms of game planning and what their defense does. Probably still very much intact with how you would game plan for an Iowa Hawkeyes defense today.
Yeah, I'm trying to recall what they ran in 2017. I think it was just a lot of cover one, and they could stack the box, kind of similar to how Michigan did with Don Brown back in the day, where they can just stack the box and their guys up front. You got Josie Jewell leading the pack. Any linebacker that's similar to him that they probably have is leading the pack on the defensive side. They only returned 4 starters in the defense, which would be concerning for any other team besides an Iowa defense. But with Phil Parker, it's kind of similar to how Penn State is, where you have I forget his name. That's at Penn State.
Knowles.
Right now?
Yeah, right now. Knowles. Yeah, the guy that just came in. It's kind of similar to them, where you have a solid defensive coordinator that it doesn't really matter who you have. He's going to get the guys ready to go. It could be an entirely new defense with guys that haven't played much snaps, and they'll be good to go. So I think they're going to be consistent, and Iowa is defense. They hold teams under 14 points most games.
I think it's funny you mentioned how they can just stack the box. Like I remember trying to run power into an 8-man, 7-man, 8-man box. I'm like, can we just throw it outside? Can we do something? Can we do an RPO? Can we do something? But you can't, because Iowa is so good at what they do. They typically lock you up on the outside. They typically have great corners, and then they just stack the box and they dare you to throw it over the top. And then if you try to run it, good luck, because there's 7, 8, sometimes 9 guys around the ball trying to make tackles.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about that defense being plug and play. One of the things that they will be benefiting from is 4 guys back on their defensive line or front 7. There's only 4 returning starters. However, Aaron Graves, Ethan Herkett, Max Llewellyn, 3 of the 4 returning starters are returning rotational guys. There's all your production, or a lot of your production, in terms of up front in the front 7, with 19 and a half TFLs and 12 sacks among those guys. So yeah, they're going to be plug and play all over the board. They're going to do what they do, but they're returning some very productive guys in the front 7 that will be disruptive. So you talk about it, you say they stack the box, they dare you to make throws over the top. They always have playmakers, and I feel like we've gotten into this consistently, whether it's the Penn State podcast, the Michigan podcast, and the Iowa podcast. It's one of the things that, again, I think it feels comfortable and talking about Iowa because we know what they're going to be on offense, on defense, because of what Kirk Ferentz has implemented throughout his years at Iowa. So we know, I feel like we know where we're going to get offensively, defensively. Is there any type of, I kind of want to look back to the game last year that we had played against Iowa, because it was like the biggest albatross of a game. And now that we're into the 2025 season, looking back at that, I still can't believe how productive we were offensively and defensively against an Iowa team and as a Michigan State team that was inconsistent on both sides of the ball pretty much from October on. And like, as I look back at that result, like I thought Iowa fell off a cliff last year, and it just ends up that they're 8-4. They lost, I think, to us and maybe UCLA. They lost another bad one, but 8-4, it just didn't seem like that was a real game last year when we played them.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa, they lose some games that they should win. They win some games they should lose sometimes, but more often than not, if you make a mistake, they're going to capitalize on it. In our game last year, we didn't make a lot of mistakes. We were able to get the ball rolling, put up a decent amount of points. And I think that's just kind of going to be the mainstay. I mean, this game's going to be, when we play them, it's going to be the second to last game of the year. It's going to be at Kinnick Stadium, middle of November. It's probably going to be a little cold. Hands are going to feel a little, can't grip the ball as well, Aiden, if you're Aiden Childs.
You can expect some wind there in Iowa City.
Yeah.
Helmet will be a boulder.
Yeah. The fans going to be right on top of you. It's going to be a gritty game, and it'll come down to who makes the least amount of mistakes, I think.
I was just looking at their schedule from last year. That was a really sneaky 8-4. You talked about it, Dante. Like they lost to Iowa State early on. They lost to Ohio State, lost to us and UCLA, and then they lost the bowl game. But granted, their schedule wasn't too terribly difficult, but still 8-4 is 8-4. You pretty much did what you were supposed to do, and you can kind of just count on Iowa to do that every year in, year out. They're going to be solid. They're not going to beat themselves. They're well coached, and there's a reason Kirk Ferentz has been there for that long. So you can expect another year of Iowa football, blue collar, similar to us, blue vase it. All the corny analogies you want to make, they're similar to us in that way.
I just think, and as we forecast this game for Michigan State 3 months out, this is going to be an interesting game because as we look at, again, as we relate it to last year, we talk about the games down the stretch and the ugly Rutgers game, the ugly Illinois game. Like there were so many games that were ugly late. This schedule, I know you have a Penn State game, but like it's more spread out this year. And this is just a game that we know is going to be a dogfight and a battle, but it's going to test where the heart and spirit of this team is, right? Because if we're scrapping again for a bowl bid like we were last year towards the last 2 weeks of the season, and you get that same type of team morale, team energy, and that's one of the things I feel like the social media team, the coaches, the players talking about camp or the team that they're on right now, they talk about how close it is, right? And it was something that was talked about with the transfers that had come in and given commitments over the offseason, talking about how close of the culture it is. It didn't look like a very close culture at the end of last year. So that's just something that I'm going to be very interested in. You talk about the weather. You talk about when this game is going to be played towards the end of the year. It's going to be a factor. I just hope that those words in the preseason, right? The words for me kind of fall hollow until we see some results. So this is going to be a really interesting game for me, especially where it falls on schedule. Last thing I want to talk about before we wrap here, or at least bring up and ask around to you guys. Where do you think, like looking at this schedule and looking at Iowa, where do you – I want to ask the Big Ten championship question. I know you guys aren't going to say it's very likely, but like where would you put them in the pecking order of the Big Ten right now? Would it be 4th, 5th, 6th? Where do you kind of have them? Just squarely in the middle?
I think squarely in the middle. I would say like around the 8 or 9 range. would be where I would put them. I don't think there's a world where they're the fourth best team in the Big Ten, to be quite frank. But I don't think there's a world where they're the 13th best team either.
Yeah, I think that's what I was going to say. Like, they're middle of the pack, but their floor, like you said earlier, Dante, is way higher than a lot of teams' floor. They're never going to. I don't think they're going to ever drop down to bottom third in the league. But realistically, are they going to be top third? Probably not. I think they're going to be pretty comfortable there in the middle.
I think I'm a little higher on them than you guys are. Offensively, they return their two best receivers, which, again, I don't know what that means for their offense and their passing attack, but I think their offensive line is going to be good, and they have an identity that's been established for 20-plus years. So I can see a world where they're just outside of the top tier of the Big Ten, and it's going to come down to those Oregon and Penn State games, and if they get one of those, which I think is very plausible for an Iowa team to do at home, it also just lines up. I think the Iowa State game is going to be interesting early. It's always a great barometer for where Iowa football is going to be that year. But you get a lot of home games. You get, Indiana at home, you get Penn State, Minnesota, Oregon at home, and you get us at home. And then the road games, talk about manageable road games. I mean, you got to go to Rutgers, Wisconsin, we just talked about. I just see a world where I could see them sneaking into that top tier of the Big Ten, depending on what their offense does. So
my last point, I don't think that you can win with the style of offense that Iowa has in today's football. I don't think you can ground and pound and rush the ball 40 times a game. And maybe they switch it up with a little bit more of what seems to be a prolific passer in Mark Gronowski. But I don't know. I don't see a team like that contending much anymore.
I don't disagree with you. There's a lot. Part of my reasoning for this too is there's not a ton of quarterback, offensive coordinator, play calling carryover from last year too, right? So it's not like Oregon's returning their same offense. Like the variability on some of these other teams, and that goes back to my point about just where where Iowa's floor typically is. But don't need to belabor it any longer. But they're an interesting team to me, and I'm really interested to see how they progress throughout the year. More than likely an 8-4, 7-5 type football team, right around that 50 or that over/under mark. Anyways, wrapping up, we will be finalizing and finishing our preview series here as we are. How many days now? Today's Wednesday, the 20th. So we are 9 days away from kickoff. There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot for us to get done. There's a lot for us to do. There's a lot for us to post, and content will be continually coming out for you guys as we start to round into form here in the two most important podcasts that we'll have these next couple weeks or this next week. Big Ten preview pod, and we'll probably have to parlay that into a Michigan State type preview pod. It'll probably be 1 segment, 2 segment, to where we just get that all out to you guys, and we go right into the Western Michigan podcast. Really excited for that. I don't know what Western Michigan's going to bring. We got to probably dig around for some of that stuff, but either way.
We'll just ask. Actually, never mind. No.
What were you going to say?
Wrong team. Never mind.
All right. Yeah, just leave it.
I'm leaving it.
All right. Anyways, we will talk to you guys on the next episode, finalizing the last game of the season with the Maryland Terrapins, a Ford Field game. A lot of people don't like it. I love it. Go green. Talk to you next time.